The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, though time meant little anymore in the orbital command center floating above Earth. Captain Jack Morrison stood at the observation window, watching the blue planet turn slowly below. Behind him, the communications officer called out that something big was coming through on all channels. Jack turned from the window and walked to the main console. The message was unlike anything they had received before. It carried translation protocols that activated automatically, converting alien symbols into clear English text. The sender identified itself as the Galactic Council, representing 47 civilizations spread across this region of space. The message was formal and polite. It welcomed humanity to the greater community of intelligent species. It invited Earth to send representatives to Nexus Prime, a neutral space station where the Council met. The invitation included technical specifications for the visiting vessel. No ship larger than 200 meters. No weapons above Class 2 defensive systems. No crew exceeding 50 individuals. Jack read the message 3 times. He had been expecting this day for years, but seeing it actually happen felt surreal. Humanity had known about aliens for 3 decades, ever since a damaged probe had crashed in the Australian outback. The governments of Earth had kept it quiet while scientists worked frantically to understand the technology they found. He picked up the secure phone and made the call. Admiral Greg Sullivan answered on the first ring. The old man had been waiting for this moment, as long as Jack had. "They made contact," Jack said. "I know," Greg replied. "I got the same message 5 minutes ago. Get to Washington. We have decisions to make." The meeting room was deep underground, far below the Pentagon. Jack arrived to find 20 people already seated around the long table. He recognized most of them: scientists, generals, diplomats, and politicians who had spent years preparing for first contact. Greg stood at the head of the table. His gray hair and lined face showed the stress of carrying humanity's biggest secret. He gestured for everyone to sit. "You've all read the message," Greg began. "The Council wants us to visit. They've given us specifications for what they expect us to bring. A small shuttle, minimal weapons, a tiny crew. It's a test," said Ambassador Helen Price. She was a sharp woman in her 50s who had negotiated treaties with every major nation on Earth. "They want to see if we'll follow their rules. It's more than that," added Dr. Kyle Martinez, the xenologist who had spent years studying the recovered alien technology. "Look at their specifications. They're not asking. They're telling. This is how they classify species. They expect us to show up weak and grateful." Jack had read between the lines too. The Council's message was polite, but underneath the courtesy was a clear expectation. Earth was the new kid. Earth would follow the rules. Earth would accept whatever place the Council decided to give them. "What do we know about this Council?" asked General Ben Adams, commander of Earth's defensive fleet. Kyle pulled up a holographic display. "From the probe's database. Quite a lot. The Council has existed for over 2,000 years. They control trade, settle disputes, and maintain what they call galactic order. Species that join peacefully get trading rights and protection. Species that resist get conquered. And species that show up in shuttles?" Helen asked. "Get assigned a protectorate," Kyle said quietly. "A stronger species manages their affairs. They lose sovereignty but gain safety. It's a nice word for subjugation." The room was silent. Jack felt the weight of what they were discussing. Humanity's entire future could be decided in the next few days. Greg spoke again. "We have options. We can send what they ask for. Play nice. Hope they treat us fairly. Or we can show them who we really are." "You want to send the Valiant," Helen said. "It wasn't a question. I want to send our best," Greg replied. "I want to show them that Earth doesn't bow to anyone." The Valiant was humanity's crown jewel. Built in secret over 15 years, the warship incorporated every piece of alien technology they could understand and improve upon. It was nearly a kilometer long, armed with weapons that could crack a moon, and protected by shields that could withstand a nuclear blast. The The ship had a crew of 800, all trained for combat and diplomacy in equal measure. "That's a huge risk," said one of the politicians. "If they see it as a threat, they could attack. If we show up weak, they'll walk all over us," Ben countered. "I've read the reports. The Council respects strength. They'll negotiate with equals. They'll dominate inferiors." Jack had his own thoughts. He had commanded the Valiant on its shakedown cruise 6 months ago. The ship performed beyond expectations. But taking it to meet the Council was gambling everything on one hand. "What if we compromise?" he suggested. "Keep the Valiant's true nature hidden until we know what we're dealing with. Let them think it's just a shuttle. If things go well, they never need to know. If things go badly, we have options." Greg considered this. "Can it be done?" "Yes, sir," Jack said. "The Valiant has stealth systems built into its hull. We can mask the energy signatures, make it look like a much smaller ship on their sensors. We keep weapons offline, shields minimal. To their scans, we're exactly what they expect." Helen nodded slowly. "And if they try to force us into a bad deal, then we stop pretending," Ben said with a grim smile. The vote was unanimous. Earth would send the Valiant, disguised as a simple diplomatic shuttle. Jack would command, with orders to negotiate from strength, but avoid conflict if possible. The crew would be told everything. They deserved to know what they were walking into. 3 days later, Jack stood on the bridge of the Valiant as it prepared to leave Earth orbit. His executive officer, Commander Lisa Hayes, ran through the final checks. Lisa was thorough and cautious, which balanced Jack's tendency to take risks. "All systems green," she reported. "Crew at stations. We're ready to depart." Jack looked at the faces around the bridge. Kate, Morgan, at weapons, her hands steady on the controls. Ryan Foster at engineering, monitoring every system. Claire Bennett, at tactical, calculating threats before they emerged. Dan Shepard had medical, ready for anything. These people trusted him to lead them into the unknown. "Take us out," Jack ordered. The Valiant's engines came to life, pushing the massive ship away from Earth. On sensors across the planet, it appeared as nothing more than a small vessel heading out for a routine mission. Only a few dozen people knew the truth. As Earth shrank behind them, Jack thought about what lay ahead. The Council expected a weak species bringing a shuttle to beg for acceptance. They would find something very different. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting for survival. They had climbed out of caves, crossed oceans, and reached for the stars. They did it without anyone's permission, and they wouldn't start asking for it now. The journey to Nexus Prime would take 2 weeks. Jack used the time to drill the crew on both diplomatic protocols and combat scenarios. They practiced polite greetings and weapons targeting with equal dedication. The Valiant could play either role, and Jack wanted everyone ready for both. Lisa approached him during the second week, her expression concerned. "Are we doing the right thing?" she asked quietly. "What if this provokes them? Then we'll deal with it," Jack replied. "But I'd rather face them standing tall than crawling on our knees." She nodded, though the worry didn't leave her eyes. Jack understood. They were gambling with the fate of Earth. But sometimes, he thought, the biggest risk was not taking one at all. Nexus Prime appeared on the view screen like a massive wheel spinning in space. The station was enormous, easily 50 times larger than anything humanity had built. Lights dotted its surface like stars, and ships of various designs moved around it like insects around a lamp. Jack stood on the bridge of the Valiant, studying the station. Beside him, Lisa worked through the scan data, her face tight with concentration. "I'm counting over 300 ships," she said. "Most are cargo vessels, but there are at least 40 warships. The big ones belong to the Xyloth Empire." Jack could see them on the display. The Xyloth ships were brutal-looking things, all sharp angles and heavy armor. They dwarfed most of the other vessels near the station. According to the data Kyle had pulled from the alien probe, the Xyloth were the Council's main military power. They enforced decisions and crushed resistance. "What about our stealth systems?" Jack asked. Ryan's voice came through from engineering. "Working perfectly, Captain. To their sensors, we look like a ship 200 meters long, with minimal power output. They can't see our true size or capabilities." "Good," Jack said. "Keep it that way. All weapons remain offline. Shields, at minimum." The communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we're being hailed by station control. They're requesting our approach vector and credentials." "Send them our diplomatic codes," Jack ordered. "Ambassador Price, you're up." Helen stepped forward, smoothing her jacket. She had changed into formal clothes for the arrival, looking every bit the professional diplomat. Beside her, Kyle carried a data pad with information about council customs and protocols. Ben stood nearby, in dress uniform, looking uncomfortable without his usual tactical gear. The view screen switched to show a council controller. The alien had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth that moved strangely when it spoke. The translation came through clearly. "Human vessel, you are cleared for docking bay 17. Please follow the guidance beacons and comply with all station regulations." "Understood, Station Control," Helen replied with a diplomatic smile. "We appreciate your hospitality." The alien's face showed what might have been amusement. "Welcome to Nexus Prime, humans. The Council is eager to meet you." The connection ended. Jack ordered the ship to follow the designated approach path. As they moved closer to the station, more details became visible. The docking bays were massive, designed to hold ships far larger than what the Valiant was pretending to be. Claire spoke from tactical. "Captain, we're being scanned. Multiple sources. They're checking our weapons and power systems." "Let them look," Jack said calmly. "They'll find exactly what they expect to find." Inside one of the station's command centers, a Xyloth officer named Thrassix reviewed the scan results of the approaching human ship. His subordinate, a younger male with less battle scars, pointed at the display. "The readings are strange, Commander," the subordinate said. "The ship's mass doesn't match its energy output." Thrassix waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Human technology is primitive. Their systems are probably inefficient. Look at the weapon signatures. Barely above civilian grade. This is exactly what we expected." The subordinate nodded, though he still looked uncertain. Thrassix had no such doubts. He had reviewed humanity's file personally. They were a young species, barely 300 years past their industrial age. They had only achieved faster than light travel in the last 50 years, and their weapons technology was centuries behind Council standards. This would be a simple integration. The Valiant docked smoothly, magnetic clamps locking it into place. Jack watched through the external cameras as station personnel approached with various equipment. They were scanning the ship again, checking for dangerous materials or hidden weapons. "They're thorough," Lisa observed. "They're nervous," Jack corrected. "Every new species is a potential threat until proven otherwise. They just don't realize how right their instincts are." In the Council's main assembly hall, Councillor Vextha reviewed the human file one more time. She was Verani, a species known for their diplomatic skills and long memories. Her people had helped found the Council 2 millennia ago, and she took her responsibilities seriously. The human data was straightforward. They were from a single planet, had colonized only 3 worlds in their home system, and their military consisted of orbital defense platforms and a handful of system patrol ships. The ship they sent to Nexus Prime was listed as their newest diplomatic vessel, barely armed and crewed by 50 individuals. Vextha found it all rather sad. Another species reaching for the stars, unaware of how dangerous the galaxy truly was. The Council would offer them protection, of course. The humans would accept Corthan oversight, provide resource access to their system, and in return, receive safety and trade opportunities. It was the same arrangement dozens of species had accepted before. She signaled her aide. "Inform the Corthan ambassador that the humans have arrived." He should prepare the Protectorate documents. Back on the Valiant, Jack assembled his officers in the briefing room. Kate, Ryan, Claire, Dan, and several others stood at attention. Helen, Kyle, and Ben joined them. "Listen carefully," Jack said. "We're about to walk into that station. Ambassador Price will handle the diplomacy. Our job is to observe, gather intelligence, and be ready for anything. The crew stays on the ship, weapons remain hidden, and we maintain the illusion that we're just a small diplomatic mission." "What if they scan us more closely?" Kate asked. "Ryan has prepared false readings for every system," Jack replied. "Unless they physically come aboard and tear apart our walls, they won't find anything." "And if they do come aboard?" Claire questioned. Jack's expression hardened. "Then we have a problem. Ben, your security team will accompany the ambassador. Stay alert, but don't appear threatening. We're guests here, at least for now." The docking ramp extended, connecting the Valiant to the station. Jack, Helen, Kyle, and Ben walked down together, flanked by 4 security officers in dress uniforms. The air that hit them was processed and slightly cold, carrying scents that were alien and strange. A council reception committee waited for them. 3 aliens stood in a neat line. The first was Xyloth, tall and muscular with gray scaled skin. The second appeared to be from a species with blue fur and large eyes. The third was smaller, with smooth green skin and delicate features. The Xyloth stepped forward. "I am Commander Thrassix, military liaison for the Council. Welcome to Nexus Prime." Helen bowed slightly, a gesture Kyle had identified as respectful in Council culture. "Thank you, Commander. I am Ambassador Helen Price, representing Earth and humanity. These are my advisors." Thrassix's eyes moved over the humans, assessing them. Jack could see the calculation in that gaze. The alien was sizing them up, determining their threat level. Jack kept his own expression neutral and unthreatening. "Your ship is smaller than I expected," Thrassix said. "Most species bring larger vessels for such an important occasion." "We follow the guidelines provided in your invitation," Helen replied smoothly. "We believed compliance would demonstrate our respect for Council protocols." The blue-furred alien made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. How refreshing. A species that actually reads the instructions. "I am Diplomatic Coordinator, Zeeks, Nal. Come." The Council is assembled and waiting. The group moved through the station's corridors. Jack took in everything, noting security checkpoints, guard positions, and escape routes. His training made it automatic. Beside him, Ben was doing the same thing. The station was crowded with aliens of various species. Some were humanoid, others were completely different. They moved through the halls on business of their own, barely glancing at the human delegation. To them, Jack realized, humanity was just another minor species joining the great galactic community. They entered a large hall with a raised platform at one end. Seated on the platform were what had to be the council members. Jack counted 12 aliens of different species, each seated in elaborate chairs. At the center was Vextha, the Varani counselor. "Humans of Earth," Vextha said, her voice carrying through the hall with unexpected power. "We welcome you to the Galactic Council. Your species has reached the stars, and we are here to guide you into the greater community." Helen stepped forward. "Thank you, Counselor. We are honored by your invitation and eager to learn our place among the stars." Jack noticed how carefully Helen phrased that. She didn't say they were eager to accept whatever place was offered. She said they were eager to learn about it. It was a subtle difference, but an important one. Vextha gestured graciously. "We have prepared accommodation for you and your delegation. Rest from your journey. Tomorrow, we will discuss the terms of your integration into Council space." "Terms?" Helen asked, her tone polite but curious. "Yes," Vextha said. There are standard requirements for new member species, protection fees, resource sharing agreements, and military oversight for your safety. All very routine. Back on the Valiant, the crew monitored everything through hidden transmitters on the delegation's clothing. Lisa stood on the bridge, listening to the council's words. "They're not even pretending," she said quietly. "They're going to try to take control of Earth." Ryan's voice came through the comm. "Captain Morrison knew this would happen. That's why we're really here." On the station, Jack exchanged a glance with Helen. She gave him the tiniest nod. They both understood now. The council wasn't interested in equals. They wanted subjects, and tomorrow, they would try to make Earth submit. Jack thought about the Valiant, docked quietly nearby with 800 crew members and enough firepower to level a city. The council had no idea what they were really dealing with. They saw a shuttle and assumed weakness. They would learn differently soon enough. The guest quarters were comfortable, but clearly designed to impress upon visitors their low status. The rooms were small, the furniture basic, and the location was in a section of the station far from the council chambers. Jack noticed all of this as he swept the room for listening devices. He found 7. Helen sat at the table, seemingly relaxed, but her fingers tapped a pattern on the surface. It was code, asking Jack if they could talk freely. He shook his head and pointed to the devices. She nodded and smiled as if they were having a pleasant conversation. "The station is quite impressive," Helen said aloud. "The council has built something remarkable here." "Indeed," Jack replied, playing along. "I look forward to tomorrow's discussions." What he was really thinking about was the message he had received from Lisa 10 minutes ago. The council military was positioning ships near the Valiant. Not aggressively, but deliberately. They were preparing to control the human vessel if negotiations went badly. Kyle entered the room carrying his data pad. "I've been reviewing council integration procedures from the public database. It's all very standardized." He set the pad on the table where Jack and Helen could see it. On the screen were the actual terms the council planned to offer. Kyle had hacked into their systems using codes built from the captured probe's technology. Jack read the terms and felt his jaw tighten. Earth would surrender control of its orbital space. The Corthon would establish military bases on the Moon and Mars. Earth would provide raw materials at rates set by the Council. Humanity would be forbidden from expanding beyond their current 3 colonies without Council approval. Any resistance would be met with force. Helen's face remained calm, but Jack saw her hands curl into fists under the table. She looked at him and mouthed one word. "Tomorrow." Jack nodded. Tomorrow, the council would make their offer. And tomorrow, humanity would give their answer. The next morning, the delegation was escorted back to the assembly hall. More council members were present this time, along with military commanders and trade representatives. Jack counted at least 50 aliens in the room, all of them watching the humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. Vextha stood at the center of the raised platform. "Humans of Earth, we have reviewed your civilization's status and capabilities. The Council has prepared an integration package that will ensure your species' safety and prosperity." A holographic display appeared above the platform, showing the terms in English. Jack had already seen them, but reading them officially made his blood boil. They were demanding everything and offering nothing but the promise that Earth wouldn't be attacked by Council forces. Helen stepped forward, her diplomatic mask firmly in place. "Counselor, we appreciate the time you've taken to prepare these terms. However, we have some concerns about specific clauses." Thrassix, the Xyloth commander, made a harsh sound. "Concerns? You are in no position to have concerns. These are the standard terms offered to all new species. You will accept them." "With respect," Helen said, her tone still polite. "Earth's government sent us to negotiate, not simply to accept predetermined terms." Another council member, a large creature with multiple arms, spoke up. "Your government has no leverage to negotiate. You arrived in a single small vessel. Your species controls 3 minor colonies. Your military consists of orbital platforms. The Council offers protection because without it, you would be conquered by any number of hostile powers in this region. Jack saw Ben's hand move slightly toward his sidearm before catching himself. The security officer's face was carefully neutral, but his anger was obvious to anyone who knew him. Kyle leaned close to Helen and whispered something. She nodded and addressed the Council again. We understand the Council's position. However, before we respond to these terms, we need to consult with our command. May we have a few hours to discuss this with our ship? Vextha waved a hand graciously. Of course. We will reconvene this afternoon. Use this time to understand that the Council's offer is generous. Many species have prospered under our guidance. The human delegation was escorted back to their quarters, but this time, Jack insisted on returning to the Valiant first. Thracics objected, saying it was irregular. But Helen firmly stated it was necessary for proper diplomatic protocols. Eventually, the Council agreed, though guards accompanied them to the docking bay. As soon as they were aboard the Valiant and the airlock sealed, Jack dropped all pretense. He strode to the bridge, with Helen and the others following. Lisa was waiting, along with Kate, Ryan, Claire, and the senior officers. Status, Jack ordered. 6 Xyloth warships have moved into attack positions around us, Claire reported from Tactical. They're not targeting us yet, but they're ready. 3 more ships are blocking our exit vector. The Council has hacked our communication systems, Ryan added. Or they think they have. They're monitoring what they believe are our secure channels. I've been feeding them fake conversations about how scared we are. Armand. Ryan. Ryan added fake conversations. Armand. Armand feed. Armand feed. Jack almost smiled at that. Good work. What about our stealth systems? Still fully operational, Ryan confirmed. They still think we're a small shuttle. They have no idea what we really are. Helen leaned against the console, her diplomatic composure finally cracking. They're not going to negotiate. This whole thing is a show. They plan to intimidate us into submission, and if that doesn't work, they'll threaten force. We knew this might happen, Ben said. Jack looked at each of them. These people trusted him to make the right call. In the next few hours, his decisions would determine whether humanity became free partners in galactic civilization or subjugated servants to the Council. We stop pretending, Jack said quietly. We show them who we really are. Lisa's eyes widened. You want to drop the stealth systems? In the middle of their station? Not yet, Jack replied. First, we let them make their move. Helen, when we go back to that hall, I want you to reject their terms clearly and firmly. Offer our counterproposal. Earth joins as an equal member, full voting rights, complete sovereignty. No bases, no tributes, no oversight. They'll never accept that, Kyle said. I know, Jack agreed. That's when we show them why they should. 2 hours later, the delegation returned to the assembly hall. The council members were seated, looking confident and comfortable. Thracics stood near the platform, his posture aggressive. Jack noticed more guards in the hall than before, all of them armed. Vextha looked down at the humans. Have you reached a decision regarding the council's generous terms? Helen stood tall, her voice clear and steady. We have, Counselor. Earth respectfully declines the offered terms. The hall erupted in noise. Council members spoke over each other in various languages. The translator struggled to keep up. Thracics stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. You decline? Vextha asked, her tone dangerous. On the grounds that Earth seeks membership as an equal partner, not as a protectorate. Helen replied. We propose different terms. Full council membership with voting rights. Complete territorial sovereignty over our system and colonies. No military occupation or resource tributes. We will contribute to council trade and participate in mutual defense, but as equals, not subjects. Several council members laughed. The multi-armed creature from earlier spoke loudly. Ridiculous! You have no power to demand such terms. You arrive in a single shuttle and think you can dictate to the council? Helen smiled, and Jack recognized that smile. It was the expression she wore when she was about to win a negotiation. We didn't arrive in a shuttle, Counselor. We arrived in a warship. The hall went silent. Thrassix stared at Helen like she had gone insane. Your vessel is registered as a diplomatic shuttle. We've scanned it. 200 meters, minimal weapons, standard drives. You're lying. Am I? Helen asked. She looked directly at Jack and nodded. Jack touched his communicator. Commander Hayes. Drop stealth systems. Show them what they're really looking at. On the Valiant, Lisa's fingers moved across her console. Disabling stealth in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Throughout the station, alarms began blaring. In the security centers, operators shouted in confusion as their sensors suddenly showed something impossible. The small shuttle docked at Bay 17 was gone, replaced by a warship nearly a kilometer long. The energy readings spiked to levels that made their equipment scream warnings. On the bridge of his flagship, Thrassix stared at the display in disbelief. His subordinate was frantically confirming the readings, his voice shaking. Commander, the human ship. It's massive. Weapon signatures are off the scale. Shield capacity exceeds anything in our database. How is this possible? Quote, in the assembly hall, Vextha had risen from her chair. The confidence was gone from her face, replaced by shock and anger. What have you done? We stopped lying, Jack said, speaking for the first time. You wanted to see what humanity brought to this meeting. There it is. 800 crew. Weapons that can crack a moon. Shields that can stop anything you have. That's not a shuttle, Counselor. That's the Valiant. And it's one of 6 ships in its class. He was bluffing about the number of ships, but the Council didn't know that. And right now, with alarms ringing throughout the station, they weren't in a position to question it. Thrassix snarled. This is a trick, some kind of sensor manipulation. Claire's voice came through Jack's hidden earpiece. Captain, I'm lighting up their whole fleet. They're about to see exactly what we can do. On every Council warship, targeting alarms suddenly activated. The Valiant's weapon systems had locked onto every military vessel in range. The targeting solutions were displayed openly, making no attempt to hide. Each ship's commander could see exactly where the human weapons were aimed and calculate the potential damage. It was more than impressive. It was terrifying. Back in the hall, Jack spoke calmly into the stunned silence. We came here willing to negotiate. We followed your instructions. We were polite and respectful. But make no mistake, Counselor, we are not prey. We are not weak. And we will not submit to terms that make us slaves in everything but name. Vextha's hands trembled slightly. You dare threaten the Council? In our own station? We're not threatening, Helen corrected. We're clarifying. Earth seeks peaceful partnership. But we will not trade our freedom for your protection. If the Council cannot accept us as equals, then we will leave and you can consider us neutral. But if you try to force us, try to conquer us, try to make us submit, then you'll discover why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars. We know how to fight, Counselor, and we're very, very good at it. The silence in the hall was absolute. Jack could see the calculations happening in alien minds. The Council had expected a weak species to bully into submission. Instead, they had a power they didn't understand, capable of threatening their entire military structure. Sitting docked at their most important station, Thrassix finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. You may have surprised us, but you cannot fight the entire Council fleet. You're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Jack met his gaze steadily. Maybe. But we're inside your station, Commander. If shooting starts, how much damage do you think we can do before we go down? How many Council members die? How much of this station survives? He let that sink in, then continued. Or, we can all take a step back, recognize that humanity is not what you expected, and negotiate like civilized beings. Your choice. The assembly hall remained frozen for what felt like an eternity. Jack could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Around him, council guards had weapons halfway drawn, uncertain whether to act. The council members sat rigid in their chairs, staring at the humans who had just turned their carefully planned integration into a potential war. Thrassix was the first to move. His hand went to his communicator, barking orders in his own language. The translator didn't catch all of it, but Jack heard enough. The Xyloth commander was ordering his ships to combat readiness. On the Valiant's bridge, Lisa watched the tactical display update. Captain. 6 Xyloth warships, powering weapons. 3 more. Moving to flanking positions. They're preparing to engage. Kate's hands moved across her weapons console, making minute adjustments. Targeting solutions updated. I have locks on all hostile vessels. Awaiting your orders. Ryan's voice came through from engineering, tense but steady. Shields at maximum capacity. All weapons systems charged and ready. Engines at standby for emergency departure. Dan spoke up from medical. Sickbay is ready for casualties. All medical teams are standing by. Back in the hall, Vextha rose slowly from her seat. Her expression had shifted from shock to cold calculation. You have made a grave mistake, humans. The Council has maintained peace for 2,000 years. We do not respond well to threats. We're not threatening anyone, Helen replied, her voice remarkably calm considering the circumstances. We're simply making it clear that Earth will not accept subjugation. You can choose to respect that, or you can choose violence. But understand the cost of violence before you make that choice. Kyle stepped forward, holding his datapad. Counselor, may I share some information we've gathered? It's relevant to this discussion. Vextha waved her hand impatiently. Speak. Kyle activated a holographic display that appeared above the center of the hall. It showed data streams, communication logs, and historical records. We've studied the Council's history. In the past 500 years, you've contacted 73 new species. Of those, 68 accepted protectorate status. The 5 that refused were attacked and conquered. Their populations reduced, their resources seized, their cultures suppressed. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Kyle continued, his voice steady. You present yourselves as peacekeepers, but the evidence suggests you're more interested in control than cooperation. Species that submit are allowed to survive. Species that resist are destroyed. It's not protection you're offering. It's a choice between slavery and extermination. The multi-armed council member stood up angrily. How dare you access classified council records? This is a violation of our protocols. Which protocols? Kyle shot back. The ones that say might makes right? The ones that let you bully species into submission? We learned about those protocols from studying your actions, not your words. Jack watched Thrassix closely. The Xyloth commander was communicating with his fleet. Receiving status updates. Jack's hidden earpiece fed him information from Claire, who was monitoring all Council military channels. Captain. They're debating whether to attack, Claire reported. The Xyloth want to disable us immediately. The Varani are urging caution. The Korthon are voting for a blockade strategy. Jack made a decision. He touched his communicator, knowing the Council would hear this too. Commander Hayes, open a channel to all Council military vessels. Let me speak to them directly. Lisa hesitated for only a moment. Channel open, sir. Jack's voice echoed through the hall and simultaneously broadcast to every Council warship in range. This is Captain Jack Morrison of the Earth vessel Valiant. I'm addressing all Council military forces. We are not your enemy. We did not come here seeking conflict. But we will defend ourselves if attacked. He paused, letting his words sink in. I've studied military history my entire life. Every great commander knows that the first question in battle isn't whether you can win. It's whether the victory is worth the cost. Look at your tactical displays. Look at what my ship can do. Even if you destroy us, how many of your vessels will we take with us? How many of your people will die? How much damage will this station sustain? In his flagship, Thracic stared at his display. His tactical officer had run the simulations. The results were disturbing. The human warship's weapons were powerful enough to cripple or destroy at least 4 Xyloth vessels before being overwhelmed. If the humans decided to fire into the station itself, the casualties could number in the thousands. Jack continued speaking. We don't want that outcome. I don't want to kill people who are simply following orders. I don't want my crew to die in a pointless battle. I want to find a peaceful solution. But understand this. We will not surrender. We will not submit. If you force us to fight, we will fight with everything we have. He looked directly at Vextha. The hall was silent, except for the distant sound of alarms still echoing through the station. Vextha stared at Jack, her alien features unreadable. Finally, she spoke. You ask us to negotiate. Very well. Present your terms clearly. What exactly does Earth want? 9. Helen stepped forward, seizing the moment. Full council membership with equal voting rights. Complete sovereignty over our home system and our 3 colonies. No military occupation or economic exploitation. We will participate in council trade networks under fair terms. We will contribute to mutual defense operations. We will respect council laws in council space, and expect the same respect in our space. Impossible, Thracic growled. New species do not receive full membership. You must prove yourselves worthy over decades of service. We're proving ourselves right now, Jack said quietly. We could have destroyed several of your ships in the time we've been talking. We haven't. That's proof of our restraint and our commitment to peace. We could have arrived with weapons blazing, trying to intimidate you. We didn't. We followed your protocols until you made it clear those protocols were a trap. That's proof of our good faith. A new voice spoke up. It came from a council member Jack hadn't heard before, a slender creature with crystalline features. The human makes a valid point. They had the advantage of surprise. They could have attacked the moment we revealed our true intentions. Instead, they revealed themselves and offered dialogue. They're bluffing, Thracic insisted. One ship cannot threaten the entire council military. Kate's voice came through Jack's earpiece, cold and precise. Jack considered for a moment, then replied so everyone could hear. Weapons, Officer Morgan. Target an empty section of space. 3,000 kilometers from the station. Fire 1 shot at 30% power. Make it visible. On the Valiant, Kate's fingers danced across her console. Targeting empty space. Coordinates locked. Firing now. A beam of intense blue-white energy lanced out from the Valiant. It cut through the darkness of space. Passing within a few hundred meters of Thracic's flagship, the beam struck nothing, dissipating harmlessly. But its power was unmistakable. The energy readings were so high that several council ships' sensors temporarily overloaded. In the assembly hall, a display screen showed the shot. The council members watched in stunned silence. The beam's intensity exceeded anything in their weapons databases, and that was only 30% power. Jack let the demonstration speak for itself. Then he added, "That was a warning shot into empty space at reduced power. Imagine what a full-power shot, aimed at a ship would do. Now multiply that by the number of weapons the Valiant carries. That's what you're considering attacking." Thracic's face showed something Jack hadn't seen before. Uncertainty. The Xyloth commander was a warrior, trained to assess threats and respond with force. But he was also experienced enough to recognize when force would be costly. Vextha sat down heavily in her chair. She looked tired suddenly, older than before. You've made your point, Captain Morrison. You have power we did not anticipate. But power alone does not grant you the right to dictate terms to the Council. We're not dictating, Helen said gently. We're proposing. There's a difference. We're suggesting a relationship of equals because we believe that's the only sustainable relationship between our peoples. Anything else will breed resentment and eventual conflict. Another council member spoke. This one from a species with feathered crests. Even if we agreed to your terms, it would set a dangerous precedent. Every new species would demand equal status. Good, Kyle said simply. Maybe they should. Maybe the Council's approach to new species needs to change. Maybe it's time to build a true confederation of equals, instead of an empire of subjects pretending to be partners. Jack could see the council members exchanging glances. They were having silent conversations through their own communication systems, debating among themselves. The humans had thrown their entire power structure into question. Ben leaned close to Jack and whispered, "We're in a very dangerous position right now. They're deciding whether to accept this or try to make an example of us." "I know," Jack whispered back. "But we're committed now. No going back." Lisa's voice came through the earpiece. "Captain, Admiral Sullivan is requesting a secure connection from Earth. He wants a status update. Tell him we're in the middle of negotiations," Jack replied quietly. "Outcome? Uncertain. Stand by." In the hall, Vextha finally spoke again. "The Council must deliberate on this matter. It is too important to decide hastily. We will adjourn for 6 hours while we discuss your proposal." "That's not acceptable," Jack said firmly. "You need to understand that every minute that passes, Earth assumes the worst. We have other ships that will launch if they don't hear from us. Delay looks like a stalling tactic while you prepare for attack." It was another bluff. The other ships of the Valiant's class were still under construction. But the Council didn't know that. And Jack needed to maintain pressure. Thracic spoke up. "Then what do you suggest?" "We cannot make such a decision in moments." 2 hours, Helen compromised. "Give us your answer in 2 hours. That's enough time to deliberate, but not enough time to organize a large-scale military response. And during those 2 hours, we all maintain current positions. No ship movements, no weapons charging, no hostile actions from either side." Vextha considered this. Finally, she nodded. 2 hours. The Council will reconvene with our decision. But know this, humans. If we refuse your terms, you will leave this station peacefully, or you will not leave at all. Those are your options. "Understood," Jack said. 2 hours. The Council members filed out of the hall, leaving the human delegation standing alone with a handful of guards. Jack looked at his team. They had 2 hours to find out if humanity's gamble would lead to partnership or war. The 2 hours felt like 2 years. Jack and the delegation returned to the Valiant, where the crew waited in tense silence. Every station was manned, every system ready. They were a trigger pull away from a battle that could reshape galactic politics or end humanity's reach for the stars permanently. Lisa met Jack at the airlock. "Admiral Sullivan is on secure comms. He's not happy about being told to stand by. He'll be even less happy if this goes wrong," Jack replied. "But I need to talk to him. Conference room, 5 minutes. Senior staff only." The conference room felt cramped with everyone present. Jack activated the secure channel, and Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. The old man looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Captain Morrison, I need a clear status update," Greg said without preamble. "Are we at war with the Galactic Council, or not?" "Unknown, sir," Jack replied honestly. "We've revealed the Valiant's true capabilities and rejected their subjugation terms. They're deliberating now. We'll have an answer in 90 minutes. Greg's jaw tightened. "You dropped stealth in the middle of their station. Do you have any idea how badly this could go?" Yes, sir." "I do," Jack said calmly. "But the alternative was worse. They were going to force us into a protectorate. Earth would have lost sovereignty. They would have occupied our colonies. We'd be paying tribute to alien empires for the privilege of existing. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. I know. That's why I sent you. That's why I chose the Valiant. But understand this. Jack, if shooting starts, you're 8 weeks from any possible reinforcement. The Dauntless isn't ready yet, despite what you told the Council. The other ships are years from completion. If they decide to make an example of you, you're on your own. I know that too, sir, Jack said. But I think they're going to talk. They're scared. We've shown them something they didn't expect, and it's made them reconsider their position. Helen spoke up. Admiral, the Council isn't as unified as they pretend. We've identified at least 3 factions with different views on how to handle us. The military wants to attack. The diplomats want to negotiate. The merchants want to find a profitable arrangement. If we can leverage those divisions, we might get what we need. Greg nodded. Then, leverage them. But be ready to run if this goes bad. Earth needs you, and that ship back home, more than we need martyrs at Nexus Prime. Understood, sir, Jack said. Morrison out. The screen went dark. Jack looked around at his officers. You heard the Admiral. We're on our own out here. Everyone stays sharp. If things go wrong, we fight our way out and run for home. No heroics, no last stands. We survive, and we warn Earth what's coming. Kate spoke from her position. Captain, if they attack, we can do significant damage before we go. Maybe enough to buy Earth time to prepare. Maybe, Jack agreed. The minutes crawled by. Jack spent the time reviewing tactical scenarios with Claire, checking escape routes, and preparing contingencies for every possible outcome. The crew was quiet, each person focused on their duties, not thinking about what might happen in the next hour. Finally, with 30 minutes left, a message came through. The Council was ready to reconvene. Jack assembled the delegation once more and headed back to the assembly hall. The hall was fuller than before. More Council members had arrived, along with military commanders and what looked like civilian leaders from various species. Jack counted at least 70 aliens present. This decision was important enough that they wanted witnesses. Vextha stood at the center of the platform. Her expression was neutral, but Jack could see tension in her posture. Next to her stood Thrassix, looking angry but controlled. On her other side was the crystalline council member who had spoken in humanity's favor earlier. Humans of Earth, Vextha began, her voice formal and measured. The Council has deliberated on your proposal. This has been one of the most difficult discussions in our recent history. You have challenged our methods, questioned our motives, and forced us to reconsider practices we have followed for centuries. Jack felt his heart pounding. Here it came. Accept or reject. Peace or war. Everything hung on the next words. We have decided, Vextha continued, to accept a modified version of your terms. Jack felt the tension in his shoulders release slightly. Not a complete victory, but not war either. Vextha raised a hand before anyone could react. Hear the modifications. Earth will be granted provisional council membership for a period of 5 years. During this time, you will have voting rights on all non-military matters. Your territorial sovereignty will be respected. No military occupation will occur. No tribute will be demanded. What about military matters? Helen asked carefully. Military decisions will require a higher level of membership that must be earned through demonstrated commitment to council security, Vextha explained. However, Earth will have observer status in military discussions, and the right to defend its own territory without council approval. Jack could see the compromise. The council was giving humanity most of what they asked for, but keeping some control over military decisions. It wasn't perfect, but it was workable. After 5 years, Vextha continued, Earth's membership will be reviewed. If you have honored the agreements and proven yourselves responsible members of the galactic community, full membership will be granted. If not, alternative arrangements will be discussed. That's acceptable, Helen said after a moment's consideration. We agree to the provisional membership under those terms. Thracic stepped forward. There is one additional condition. The Council requires that you share the technology behind your stealth systems. It represents a significant military advantage that disrupts the balance of power. No, Jack said flatly. That technology is not for sale or trade. Earth will share scientific knowledge on peaceful applications, but our military technology remains our own. That is unacceptable, Thracic growled. You cannot expect equal treatment while holding strategic advantages. The Crystalline Council member spoke up. Commander Thracic, the humans are correct. We do not share our most advanced military technology with new members. Why should we expect them to? If they choose to maintain certain secrets, that is their right as a sovereign power. Thracic looked like he wanted to argue, but Vextha raised her hand. The matter is decided. Earth will join as a provisional member, with the terms stated. Captain Morrison, Ambassador Price, do you accept these conditions on behalf of your government? Jack and Helen exchanged glances. It wasn't everything they wanted, but it was far more than most new species ever received. More importantly, it established Earth as an independent power, not a subject state. We accept, Helen said formally. Earth agrees to provisional membership in the Galactic Council, under the stated terms. The hall erupted in conversation. Some council members looked satisfied, others angry. But none looked willing to challenge the decision. The vote had been taken, and humanity had won its place. Over the next week, the details were formalized in written agreements. Jack kept the Valiant on high alert the entire time, not fully trusting the peace until they were safely away from the station. But gradually, it became clear that the Council was honoring its agreement. Other species began approaching Earth's delegation. Some wanted to establish trade relationships. Others were curious about the humans who had forced the Council to back down. A few, like the Varani, hinted at forming closer alliances with species who valued independence. The Crystalline Council member, who introduced herself as Crystalline Advisor Shantar, approached Helen privately. You've done something remarkable, she said. The Council has grown complacent, accustomed to dominating new species. You reminded us that strength comes in many forms, and that respect cannot be demanded, only earned. We just wanted to be treated fairly, Helen replied. And in seeking fairness, you may have started a larger change, Shantar said. Other species are already asking why they accepted less than what Earth demanded. The Council will need to adapt or fracture. Time will tell which path we choose. Finally, the Valiant prepared to depart. The crew was exhausted, but triumphant. They had faced down an empire and won through a combination of strength, courage, and calculated risk. On the bridge, Jack gave the order to undock. The ship pulled smoothly away from Nexus Prime, leaving the massive station behind. This time, there was no pretense. The Valiant showed its true form, a declaration that humanity would never again hide what it was. Lisa stood beside Jack at the command chair. We did it. We actually did it. We did, Jack agreed. Though I suspect this is just the beginning. The galaxy knows about us now. Some will want to be our friends. Others will want to test us. We'll need to be ready for both. Kate called out from weapons. Captain, several ships are moving to intercept our course. Jack's hand went to the alert button, but Claire spoke up quickly. Belay that, Captain. They're not hostile. They're forming an honor escort. 7 ships from different species. They're going to accompany us out of Council space. Jack smiled. That was a statement in itself. These species were publicly aligning themselves with Earth, showing respect to the new power that had challenged the Council. As they traveled toward the edge of Council territory, Jack recorded a message for Admiral Sullivan and Earth Command. He detailed everything that had happened, the agreements they'd reached, and the challenges that lay ahead. Earth has secured its place among the stars, he said into the recorder. Not as a subject, but as an equal. We paid for it with courage and resolve. But we did it without firing a shot in anger. The crew of the Valiant upheld the best of what humanity can be. We were strong when we needed to be, but we chose peace when peace was possible. That's the balance we'll need to maintain as we move forward into this new age. He ended the recording and looked out at the stars ahead. Earth was 8 weeks away, but it felt like coming home already. They had gone out as representatives of an unknown species. They were returning as members of a galactic community, respected and independent. The Valiant flew on through the darkness, carrying humanity's hopes and proving that sometimes the best weapon was the willingness to use it only as a last resort. The Valiant flew on through the darkness, carrying humanity's hopes and weapons in equal measure.